Hello and welcome to another Tabletop Ramblings Middle-earth strategy battle game battle reports. She would have won! In this battle report, we're going to be putting my tournament list of Goblin Town and friends through their paces against their worst nightmare, terror. So this is the evil army, and this is the tournament list that I am testing out. I've already had to sign up on Longshanks. I've chosen that this will be my force, so hopefully it's not going to get annihilated too badly. The tournament is actually tomorrow when this video comes up, so hopefully there's nobody watching and learning how to defeat this list. Although there's not really any tricks with it, it's quite simple, so it's not too much of an advantage. The leader is the Goblin King, and he has with him 18 goblins. Then we have Grinah, he has 10 goblins. And then we have the Witchking of Dolguldur. He's not the official Forge World model, he's the new Witch King model just because I think it looks awesome and it's new. And then he is leading a Gundabad Orc with shield, spear and banner. He's the only spear in the list. We then also have with him 9 Hunter Orcs, 4 with bow, and then 5 with 2 swords, although 2 of them do actually have 2-handed weapons just because I had some spare points left over. We then have the Spider Queen from the Dark Denizens list. This is a real hodgepodge of 3 different alliances. She is just a single drop, although she does have her 3 broodlings that she can fire out in the course of the game. And then finally, we have a Mercenary Goblin Captain ready to jump in at some point during the game. So this is the 650 point Goblin Town, Dark Denizens and Necromancer force. This is the good force for today to really test out the tournament list. Their worst possible nightmare is terror, especially with the King of the Dead's Harbinger. The goblins will be down to courage 1, so they've just become complete potatoes. This is the Army of the Dead, but it's the Return of the King Legendary Legion. We've got Aragorn, Legolas, and the King of the Dead. Aragorn has a cloak, just because of a couple of extra points, and Legolas has his armour. And then each warband is the same, with just 3 guys with shield and 3 with spear and shield. This is the table for today. We're going to be playing to the death. There's nothing special about this scenario, it's just smash into the enemy and try and break them, kill their leader, be the one that actually finishes the game, which is quartering the opponent. And there are actually points for banner, so in this one there is a slight advantage for evil, although whether that translates to a win is very much questionable. Both forces start 12 inches on, they're already deployed. Good have deployed in a fairly standard shield wall, ready to anchor in on some terrain. Evil have deployed in a huge amorphous blob. The captain there, the mercenary captain, he can elect to drop in behind enemy lines, but it's probably best in this scenario to deploy with the main bunch and just burn his might on marches. So that is deployment. We'll go ahead and roll turn 1 priority. And turn 1 priority goes to evil. Before we get started, let's talk Legolas. He is Mr. Unreliable. He can spend all game rolling 1s, or he can do some amazing things. Why don't you pause the video now and comment below whether you think he's going to be amazing or useless. We'll see how many votes we can get either way, and through the course of the game we'll see whether he's any good or whether he's useless. End of turn 1 movement, and evil called a march with that captain in the centre and have just charged forward. keeping their big blob with the important stuff at the back away from Legolas's archery. Legolas had moved half ready for shots, and the rest of the line is just formed up as predicted on this terrain, ready to receive the charge of the evil forces. So that is the movement. There will be some shots, so we'll go into the shoot phase. So Leggy just firing into plebs at the front to try and do some damage, try and break them. Good old Leggy. A 1, 2 and a 3. He's moved, so he's hitting on 4s. Legolas is true to form and fails miserably. He is Mr. Unreliable. So priority for turn 2 again goes to Evil. End of the movement phase. Good elected to stay still. Evil charging forward. They do have some bow shots in the list, but they're not going to be able to outshoot Legolas unless he continues to perform that poorly. So they're just at the back, hiding as they're slightly better targets than just the standard plebs. So Evil charging forward. There's been no march this turn. Just to try and split round here, it would have been too difficult to stay within 6 inches of the marcher. So he's gone that way. The rest of them have gone this way to either march next turn or just kind of funnel round there and towards their targets. The Spider Queen is hiding behind thousands of guys, and the King has a couple of natural in the ways which make him a less favourable target. He's also got Blubbery Mass, so he's not really that bothered about hiding behind the ranks. Legolas is going to make a shot at the Spider Queen. He's going to use his auto hit, or at least it used to be an auto hit. Now it is a 2+, so he's going to roll it. And get a 1. You cannot make this up. Legolas, you are Mr. Unreliable. Useless. So with that, we will roll for turn 3 priority. Shouldn't have bothered doing these marches. It just speeds things up. There's no way Legolas is going to kill anything. It's a draw, so it goes to good. With good priority, they have just stayed still, getting ready to take the charge. Evil marching forward on this flank. So that's the captain now out of might. They have just charged up. The King, sadly, was in range of the march, so he had to come across to be within 6 of the captain, otherwise he'd have foregone his movement. Ideally, he kind of wanted to be over here, around this edge, just away from Aragorn. Aragorn, the King and Legolas, although maybe not Legolas, could theoretically cut through this quite quickly and kill him. So he wanted to be further away, but it is what it is. Over here, slowly but surely, these guys are coming up as well. With Legolas being placed here and not moving, he actually doesn't have a clear shot on the Spider Queen. He can still do his auto hit, but at least he can't do his 3 shots and kill her outright. So she's just moved right out, ready to pounce next turn. So we'll go into those shots, and Legolas is going to try and redeem himself, and he's going to try and auto hit the Spider Queen. He could go for shots here, but the ones on the front are the armoured mercenaries, and they're actually defense 4, so he's wounding those on 5s instead of 4s. So he's probably best off trying to auto hit the Spider Queen again. See if he can redeem himself. It's a 2. He only just hits, but that is enough. He is strength 3. She is something crazy like defense 4, so it's 5s. And he's done a wound. She's got no fate, so she has taken a wound. With the Spider Queen having taken a wound in the shooting, but none of the numbers being thinned, we go into turn 4 priority and hopefully some combats. So rolling for priority, it goes to Evil, which is a real shame because now there's going to be some courage tests. End of Evil's move and a couple of failed courage tests, but the captain did manage to get in. Didn't need to use any might or will. He got a big 11, so he is in. And then the Witchking of Dolguldur, he ran in to the King of the Dead, his friend, and 2 spear supports. Because if he dies, he gets to roll on the unholy resurrection table, and he's probably going to come back again, so he doesn't really mind. He's also only 1 wound, no fate, so it doesn't really matter about the King's Drain Soul special rule. so he's quite good to tank them. Unless, of course, he rolls a 1 on that table and doesn't come back without burning all his might. But we shall see. That also cut off these control zones so that one and a Chittering Horde spear support was able to get in to go after Legolas. The rest of the force was too far away to get into combat, so they've just run forward just to try and tempt some charges from the ghosts. Then on this flank, coming around to try and get round the back with the Spider Queen. She could have charged him, but she'd have been countercharged and obliterated. She does have the fight value, but it was just too scary, especially as Aragorn could have combated into her and abused her. So she is, she's also just outside of 12, so she's outside of the neg 1 bubble from the King of the Dead's Harbinger, so she will be courage 3 or 4 or whatever she is. We'll have to look that up. And she's able to be supported just in case some guys do come round next turn. So that is where Evil have moved to. We'll come back after Good have moved. In Good's move, Aragorn has charged in to use his 3 point of might for a heroic combat. And then the shield wall has retreated. That puts these guys wildly out of position. It's going to take them 3 turns probably just to catch up. The Spider Queen is now out of charge range, and it means that the forces of Good can engage just a small number of the evil force, try and smash them to pieces, and then deal with the rest of it. Just trying to use the positioning, and worst case, they can always form up here another shield wall to the board edge. So that is Good's move. There's going to be no shooting. We'll go into the combat phase. In the combat phase, we have Aragorn and friend against 4. He's calling a heroic move with his 3 point of might. We'll let Evil set the bar though. They're not going to piercing strike because Aragorn is only defense 5. They have got a 6, so they are putting as much pressure on as they can. And Aragorn, only gets a 5. The ghost does have a banner reroll to a 2. So Aragorn has overstretched himself there. He really doesn't want to get surrounded. He's one of the few models that doesn't cause terror. So he's going to use a point of might from his store to win that fight. It's probably a bit of a mistake there from Aragorn, but at least he has been able to push forward. So he's wounding on 4s. He only kills 1, which isn't so great, but the ghost is also wounding on against courage, so he needs a low number. Not that Aragorn is, it's just that he's also needing a low number. That 5 certainly does it, so he's killed those 2. His heroic move has gone off, his heroic combat rather, and he is just going to whip round to form the shield wall. The next fight along, we have the Witch King against the King of the Dead and 3 friends. So they're both at fight 5. We'll let the Witch King go first on just a 4. That's fairly poor. And then rolling the dice for Good, some 6s. So they win. And they are against courage. He is courage 6 down to 5. So everything just needing 5s. And he is dead. But as we say, he may well come back. So the Witch King is dead. He'd have obviously backed away. So he's there. He doesn't exist. You meant to just replace him with a token, but I find it's easier to just have him there with a loom band on. People can walk through him as he doesn't exist, but there's no heroic combats or anything like that. So at this point, it doesn't really matter. So we'll move along to Legolas against 2. Legolas with his 2 attacks. Can he do something in combat? Or is he going to be as good at rolling 1s in combat as he is in shooting? No, he does win on a 5. He's won it on the draw, and he is needing... that's an armoured 1, but it's irrelevant because he's strength 4, so he needs 4s, and he's killed him. So Legolas there gets a kill. That's 3 dead goblins now. We've then got the evil captain and friend against 2 of the Army of the Dead. They get a 4 high. What can the captain get? Captain also gets a 4, which is not very good. And his friend a 2. So at the moment, it's a draw. Good do have a banner, which is done before might. No, just a 1. So the captain, the captain's out of might, isn't he? Of course he is, because he burnt it all on marches. So a roll off. It goes to good. Can they kill him? He is courage 3 down to 2. So they're wounding on 4s. No wounds there on that captain, who backs away and lives to fight another day. End of the turn. After those combats, this is how we're looking. The forces of evil chasing down the army of the dead, who are tactically pulling back and just engaging a small portion of the evil horde. Let's roll for priority for turn. I've already lost count, probably 5, and it goes to good. Before they move, though, we'll roll on the unholy resurrection. It's not actually a table. It's a 1 or 2, he's banished. Anything more, he's fine. That is a big Imps Gaming 6, so he's absolutely fine. He then gets to reappear anywhere within 6 inches. And he is going to come on behind enemy lines just to be a pain. And pray that he doesn't roll low. Legolas and Aragorn actually do have elven blades. So that is a negative on the table. It will be a 3+. But he does have might, and it can be used on this roll. So hopefully he can be a thorn in the side for a while. And hopefully delay this retreat a little bit. End of Good's movement phase, and they've charged up here, just engaging some one-on-ones. There's still going to be a couple of courage tests for evil to take, and then they are pulling the line back around just to try and kill as many as they can before they start taking any losses. If they'd engaged up here, they'd have just been pulling back towards the enemy, so they're keeping this retreat going, trying to ensure that it's kind of even on numbers instead of being overwhelmed, as that is the only advantage that evil have at the moment, is numbers. So in denying the numbers advantage, Good are trying to just play this as best as they can with a very one-trick pony army. Evil's move. The Spider Queen and her friends are moving up still. She's just outside of 6 inches, but she is well in charge range. She tried to be outside of the Harbinger range so that she'd have a full courage, but it was too easy for Good to just pull back and leave her out on a limb. So she is moving up and ready. Evil decided not to bother risking courage tests and leaving half their force behind, so they've just run up to form a wall right in front, just making it less attractive for Good to retreat again. And then over here, 2 of the Chittering Horde spear supports ran back, and the king passed a courage test to splatter his 2 friends. If he ends he can move through models doing a strength 3 hit, but if he stands on them at the end of his move, then they die. He crushed both of the 2 that were there to get into combat with this chap for a tasty hurl. He managed to pass it without needing any will or might, which is quite impressive considering he's courage 2 with Harbinger. That was very lucky. No one else passed a courage test to try and help him out to make sure he wins the fight, but we'll take that. That's not too bad. Then the banner managed to get in range of all of the rest of the fights, and by all I mean 2. So again, not many fights, although that is going to be a nasty hurl. So we'll go into that combat phase. It is Good priority, so they're going to do the king first, simply because if that hurl goes off, it's going to hit those 2 guys that are in combat as well. So the king against 2, if we can find some dice. The king with 3 attacks. He's not going to bother piercing striking, and he has 1, even if that cock dice is something sensible. He's won it on fight, so he's going to hurl. He's actually only strength 5, so he should have piercing struck. That was really foolish. They're going 2 + 3 from the strengths. Oh dear, can't speak. Put my teeth back in. Strength difference. So in fact, it could well hit Aragorn. We'll measure that up once the phone is away, and we'll just see exactly who that is hitting. So the guy will actually hit Aragorn. He's going to go along this line, and he's going to hit 11 of his friends, and then those 2 in the combat as well will be hit. So He's taking 11 strength 3s, which will be 6s by 4, which is 6, and then re-rolling those into a 4. And this is the strength 6 hit, which will need a 5. And a 6. He might die. 6s by 4. No. So the guy actually survives. He survives that hurl, which is really annoying because that means he's placed here, disrupting the lines. We'll deal with that in a minute. So he displaces those guys, and then everything takes a strength 3 hit. So on this spearman here that got clipped, no. The front guy, no. Back guy, no. Legolas, no, which is a shame. The spearman, no. This chap here, cocked. Oh, it's a 6. 6s by 4, no. And then, oh, I've lost count of who we've done. This spearman, a 6 by 4, no. The king, no. Spearman behind the king, no. He's the one that got thrown. So then Aragorn, ooh, a 5 to wound Aragorn, no. And then this lad here, still a no. So no wounds there, that was pathetic. But they are all prone, which stops them from running away, which is important. They'll have to move half if they want to be able to stand up. So that at least is fairly useful. And it was also quite funny. So then, does he hurt his own guys? We'll do this goblin here. A 4 to wound him. Yes. The goblin is killed, which does actually take Legolas out of combat, which is quite good. Legolas now unable to stand if he wins a combat. So then this captain here doesn't take a wound. So that hurl, all it did was kill 1 goblin. And to do it, the Goblin King had to crush 2 of them. So a fairly ineffectual hurl there. There's now just 1 combat to prone captain and friend against 2 Army of the Dead. In fact, just 1 because you can't spear support while prone, but he's going to shields. Still 2 dice. The captain has won that. Banner reroll from Aragorn, which is passive, and it's just an aura rather than a banner, so it doesn't matter that he's prone, but it doesn't matter. So the captain stands, but the guy at the back can make strikes. It's a 6. 6s by 4s to wound, and he is dead. Oh, and in fact, it was double strikes as well, because he was not prone. First kill, and it's all thanks to to the Goblin King. In fact, no, nothing to do with him. But we'll give it to him anyway. There we go. That is the end of the phase. Oh, in fact, no, it's not. No, it's not. This very tight battlefield right near the board edge makes it difficult to see through this camera. There is this fight here. It's the Witch King against 2 Army of the Dead. And the Army of the Dead win. Wounding against his courage of 6 down to 5s. So they're wounding on 5s. And they've killed him. Again, he is dead. That's 2 combats and 2 deaths. So this is how we're looking at the end of the turn. Fairly entertaining, if not wildly destructive, unless you're a goblin and you've been murdered by your own king. So we'll roll for priority. It's a draw. As good had it last, it now goes to evil. That's not ideal for the forces of evil, as they'll now have to take 1,000 courage tests. However, good will have to decide whether they want to risk it on the courage tests or call a heroic to stand up. So that hurl has at least probably made them spend a bit of might. Before we go into that, though, we'll roll on the resurrection table, I keep saying, but it's not. It's just a dice roll, and he's back. So he comes up within 6 inches. And to be honest, he is going to come up exactly where he is. So we'll take that loom band off in a minute. Slight change. The Witch King has decided to come in here. That's so that either he can charge into some prone models and just get some traps and pins against the weight of the front line if they're able to charge. And also, if he has to counter a heroic move from Aragorn, it'll get everybody, because neither the King nor Grinah are in the best position for a heroic move. Aragorn, of course, is calling a heroic move with his free point of might to try and stand up. It's just not worth getting abused on the floor. So it's going to be a roll-off. The Witch King and Aragorn. And it goes to the Witch King. So the Witch King and all of his friends are going to be moving first to try and keep as many of these guys on the floor as possible. After that heroic move, quite a decent number managed to charge. The king has to get in on him. There's the captain and friend on Legolas. A Hunter Orc, the only one that was in range of the heroic, has charged into that chap with the banner behind to get all of the combats. The king and friend has been charged. These two here. In fact, this is the only guy that's prone who is not tagged. Everything has been charged there. These guys have come around, managed to tie up these two. They're not actually prone, but just to stop them from moving. Grinah has got close to the fight, but he couldn't actually charge. He wanted to get into combat with Aragorn. He'll have to do swap with me. We'll come to that in the shoot phase. And then the Hunter Orcs have yet to move. Only one of them was in range of the heroic. So we'll do the normal evil move now, and then we'll come back after that. In Good's move, we've just popped the loom bands on all the things that are still prone, just to make it easier to see. But the spear supports that weren't engaged, there was actually this guy as well, has stood up, and the one behind Aragorn, and then two from the back have come forward to spear support. This chap here has charged to trap the Witch King, although he's been knocked slightly. He's meant to be getting the trap against the Witch King. Then around here, the only other guy left to move, passed a courage test to charge the Spider Queen, despite the -1 from Evil's Harbinger there. We come into the shoot phase, though, where Grinah is going to use swap with me to swap with this chap here. For a point of might, he is able to swap into combat there with Aragorn. Then seamlessly into the combat phase. The King and the Spider Queen, there's no real need to call anything, but Grinah is going to be striking against Aragorn, who is prone and ripe for the killing. So Aragorn is going to have to strike as well, which is the second one from his store. He's hemorrhaging might here, but it's important to survive. He could call a heroic defense, but he's still going to get quite a lot of dice against him. He's going to get 6 against him. Natural 6s could still slip through. So he's going to strike and hope that that's the right call. That's all of the heroics, so we'll go into the combats. In the combat phase, with evil priority, we're going to start with the captain and friend against Legolas and friend. Legolas being prone, he could well die here. So the captain and friend setting the bar on a 5. They've got banner reroll. Could be worse, but equally could be better. Oh, but Legolas really bottles it. He has only got a 3 high. Banner reroll for spirits, because Aragorn's nearby, is just a 1. So we'll do Evil's banner reroll on not the Mikeable 5. That will be insane. We'll do it on this one here. No. So Legolas can win the fight for 2 points of might. Is he going to die? He's going to be taking 2 strength 4 hits and a strength 3. 6 dice needing 5s. He's unlikely to die, but and all he'll do is stand up. That is such a shame. Oh, Legolas, comment below what you think he should do. Do you think he should win the fight for 2 points of might and only stand up? Or do you think he should risk it? No, he's going to spend the might. He's going to do it. 2 points of might. He stands. He doesn't get to make strikes. All he does for 2 points of might is lose the loom band. His spear support, however, does get to make a strike against the captain. But it's a 3. Oh, wounding on courage. He's courage 3 down to 2. No. If it was a normal guy, that would have been enough. But the captain is fine. So the captain backs away. 2 points of might wasted there. Oh, however, we've bottled it here. Oh, no, in fact, no. He is just spear supporting. He wasn't involved in the fight. He couldn't quite make it. Things have been knocked slightly, but he couldn't originally make it. So Legolas is fine there. Then this guy fighting 2 is going to shield because he's on the floor. He loses. Banner reroll from Aragorn. Wins the fight. That is crucial. So he stands up. The forces of evil are actually trapped there, but it doesn't really matter. They just part ways slightly. We'll then do the king against 2. The prone guy and his spear supports. The king wins that unless this is a 6 from the banner. No, not going to get 2 of those in a row. And then the king is just going to mince him. He is going to rend, which will wound on something really low. The 4 will definitely do it. So he's killed that chap there, who we can probably get out. This guy would need to back away. Just destroy the house there in the process. So that is that fight there. We'll then do this one here. It's just a single Hunter Orc against 1 guy who's going to shield because he's prone and very trapped. So the Hunter Orc gets the 6. 2 6s. Banner reroll for having Aragorn nearby. Doesn't help him. So now 4 attacks at strength 4, importantly. So wounding on straight 6s. Kills him twice over. The Hunter Orc smashes him to pieces. Didn't even need to go 2-hand, which would have been wounding these defense 8 models on 5s, which is quite crazy. We've then got this chap here, the king, and this spear support. Oh no, the spear support, he's fighting the Witch King. So 2 on 2 there, but one of the the good rather, is the King of the Dead. So we'll let the king set the bar. He gets the 6, so he and his friend stand up. We'll take off their loom bands. Oh, we'll do that in a moment. They just back away. We then have Aragorn against Grinah. Oh, in fact, we'll come back to that fight. We'll do this one here. It's a 2 on 4. A couple of guys kind of formed up just in case the Spider Queen failed the courage test, but it didn't happen. So 4 on 2. That is a lot of good dice here to get some kills. They've lost the fight though. Banner reroll from Aragorn. Still a 4 high on 5 dice. They're not prone and didn't actually declare that these would be piercing striking, which is a real shame. Should have done really. We'll say, in fact, now that everything that can will always piercing strike unless otherwise said. So 2 on 4. In fact, we've already done that. I'm losing my mind now. They needed 6s by 4s. There we go. And nothing at all. So they back away, which is a bit of a surprise. Did think that that was going to end in dead goblins. We'll do the Spider Queen. So 3 guys against her 3 attacks on the charge. She's got the fight value and she's got the 6s there. 2 6s and a 5. Absolutely loves it. Now she is strength. Oh, actually, I'll have to find out what her strength is. What is her strength? The Spider Queen is strength 6. So she's going to be wounding these guys on 5s. And she has venom, so she's re-rolling failed wounds. So on the first guy, needing 5s, re-rolling all failed wounds. No. And again, no. That's not a good start. This guy, no. Re-rolling failed wounds. Yes. Kills him. And then the last attack on that first guy kills him. So she's killed 2 of them. This guy backs away and is prone. We'll put his prone marker on in a moment. We then have... we'll do the Witch King against these 2. They've all been knocked around. So 2 and this chap here against the Witch King. Witch King really needs to win this fight because he can put some damage out against the prone ones. And he does. A 6. He's got the fight value. So on the first prone guy, still just needing 6s. No chance. And again, no. But they do remain prone. And then, before we forget, there is that final fight of Aragorn and Spitsport against Grinah and friend. They have both struck. So Aragorn against Grinah. Aragorn is fight 6 base. Grinah only fight 3. Oh, there we go. So Aragorn easily fight 10. Grinah only up to, doing very quick maths, 7. So Aragorn can win this fairly comfortably here, but he won't be making strikes. Grinah and friend do get the 6, so they're putting the pressure on Aragorn and friend. Aragorn and friend also get the 6, so no need to spend any of that precious might. Grinah backs away. Aragorn stands. We'll take that off in a moment. And then, as Grinah runs back, a single strike from that spearman does not wound. Oh, yes, in fact, it does, because his courage drops to a low enough level that is a wound on Grinah for the final combat of the turn. And then this is how we're looking. The Army of the Dead starting to take a bit of a beating. Still quite a few on the ground, although the heroes are back on their feet and ready to kill. So let's roll for priority. Priority is a draw, so as evil had it last, it goes to good. There's no need for a resurrection roll on the Witch King. He actually survived. He didn't kill anything, but his heroic move was very useful, so he's starting to be useful. Let's go into the movement phase. End of Good's move, with evil not calling any heroics. It went uncontested. And this chap failed a courage test to charge the king, leaving this guy to go in and wrap round. They've just gone to hold the line. Legolas charging the captain and friend, backed up. Quite a lot of one-on-ones with backup, just to make the evil force take as many courage tests as possible. This guy is going after Grinah, so that with only one might left, Grinah can't swap into combat and strike against Aragorn. Aragorn's picking on 2 to hold the line, because this guy has had to just go randomly in the middle to block off that gap, as this moron failed his courage test on... Oh, in fact, we've moved the dice. He got a 4, which should have passed, but the Harbinger from the Witch King made him fail. So this guy has gone in instead, this spear support, into the Spider Queen, far enough away that no one can join her and make a heroic combat too juicy. And so that is how Good are looking. They've actually lost quite a few numbers, but as long as they can keep their shield wall, this should be okay. Then we're going to do Evil move now and come back. Evil's move, not a huge amount happened. A goblin ran away from this guy who hadn't charged him. He'd only gone into the Hunter Orc, allowing all these Hunter Orcs to take courage tests, one of whom managed to get in onto that guy. Then a couple of spear supports moved around. Chittering Horde allows goblins to spear support other goblins. And then here, we did manage to get 2 guys passing courage tests to charge the roadblock to try and overwhelm him. And a Hunter Orc and 1 managed to charge this prone Army of the Dead. This guy failed. This guy failed. Various failures scattered throughout, but it didn't really matter with the numbers. No one was able to help out the Queen, though, who isn't trapped, but just against 1, it's more that it's annoying that she's not going to be able to really go anywhere with any heroic combats or anything like that, as she has been tied down for the turn. So that is how we're looking. There's nothing exciting happening in the shoot phase, so we're going to go straight into combats. We'll start off down at the bottom, where the Hunter Orc and friend are going up against the shielding prone Army of the Dead, who has lost. There is the banner reroll from Aragorn, to a 6, which draws with the fight value of the Hunter Orc. So 1, 2, 3, it's evil, and it's evil. That's not good there for the Warrior of the Dead. Double strikes against a prone model is already 2 attacks, so the Hunter Orc strength 4 needing 6s doesn't do it. Then 2 attacks from the Goblin needing 6s by 4s doesn't do it either. He does, however, stay prone, so that chap there backs away prone. We'll then do the Spider Queen. She's only 2 attacks when she's not on the charge, so the Army of the Dead is going to fight it and lose. If he had shielded, he'd still have lost. So, he does, however, have that banner, so we'll say that was his banner reroll anyway. So the Spider Queen has won, and she could barge, try and get somewhere sensible, but she's at risk of getting killed by Aragorn, and he's got an Elven Blade, so she's just going to try and kill him. She is going to rend and eat him alive. So she slaughtered him, and we can then move on to this combat here. Everything piercing striking, where Abel against a shielding Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead wins it there. That Warrior of the Dead pushes them back, and their piercing strikes are irrelevant because he's not making any strikes. no one is ever going to stab because they're only defense 3 and it just seems madness. So here, not going to piercing strike because Aragorn, it doesn't help. So it's 4 against Aragorn and friend. Let's gather some dice. So Aragorn and friend against 4. We'll let the 4 set the bar. A 5 high, respectable. Aragorn wins it also on a 5. He's still got his 3 point of might as well. In fact, he was meant to call a heroic combat. It doesn't really matter. In fact, yeah, we'll let him have his combat. And it doesn't matter, though, because they have bottled it. In fact, the Army of the Dead guy does get a kill. So one of them does die. So it doesn't really matter there that we forgot that heroic combat because it simply wasn't meant to be. If he'd have spent the free might on the combat, he wouldn't have got a kill. If he had, then yeah. So next up, we have Grinah against this chap here. The Warrior of the Dead is going to shield against Grinah and friend. And it is a draw. Grinah is only fight 3. So 1, 2 or 3, it goes to evil. And it goes to evil. Grinah needing straight 6s. And it's 6s by 4s for the other guy. Grinah there gets the kill. The Army of the Dead are dropping like flies. What is going on? So now we have 4 against the king and friend. Can king and friend get some kills? So they will all be piercing striking where able. And they have won that fight. The king benefits from the banner. And it's a 6. There we go. That would have been just too heartbreaking for the forces of good there. They've won and they're going to set about killing. 2 kills there, nice and easily, just pushing those goblin supporters back and slaughtering the ones at the front. We'll do the Witch King next. We'll do the Witch King against the Witch King's friend. And to be honest, the friend is just going to shield. There's no point because if he kills the Witch King, he'll probably come back anyway. He's lost, but he can banner to a draw, which is still a loss because of the Witch King's fight value. Needing 6s. No, and it's not worth the Witch King's might. So he just backs away. We then have, we have some nasty fights here. Do the king first, because if Legolas kills these by some miracle, the king could barge and crush some of his guys and go into combat. So we'll do the king first. It's the king and 2 friends. We'll let evil set the bar. They're going to shield. By that I mean good. So then the king wins that on the 6. There's nothing that good can do about it. And then, so he could barge. He'd have to run over all his friends. He's just going to rend. And he slaughters that chap there. Oh, if we can reach in. Everything's a bit distorted looking through a camera. So you find that your finger's not quite long enough. Then we have 2 Hunter Orcs and Banner Spear support, actually. We did forget last time that the Banner does have a spear, although it's at -1 to win the fight, against 2 chaps. So rolling these together, it goes to evil on the 6, the Banner being this slightly different one. I think it might be an Imps Gaming dice. Banner reroll for Aragorn, he still loses. So all of these rolling to wound. The Banner will need 6s by 4s, but the Hunter Orcs are strength 4, so they're needing 6s. 1 wound, and it has killed him. So the spear support backs away. This guy is dead. An absolutely savage turn there. The final fight is Legolas. Legolas against the captain and 3. He does have a spear support, so let's see what they can do. The captain's out of might, so we'll just roll all 5 together. They have the 6, so Legolas and friend, no pressure, but you really need to roll high. It's there. There's the 6. They've won, and now looking to kill. So we'll do the Army of the Dead guy is going against the normal troop and kills him, and then Legolas on the captain kills the captain. One fate on the captain. He doesn't save it. Legolas redeems himself. He's killed the captain. And he's killed that chap there. He's now open onto the banner as well. That could be a bit of a swing there. The forces of good carving a little hole there in the line. This is how we're looking. Evil have definitely got the numbers. Good really need to maintain priority, get some form of shield wall going, and just hold these guys back and win it in the grind. So going into turn number 6 or 7, Good are actually only one model off break. They have lost 10 Warriors of the Dead to 10 Goblins and a Captain. The points difference in losses is just crazy. However, there is still some very strong heroes left alive for Good, and Terra could still box out lots of evil models. This is going to be a fairly crucial priority roll. On the draw, it goes to evil. So Good now going to have a think about heroics, and we'll come back. With evil priority, the King of the Dead is calling a heroic move with his 1 point of might. This allows Aragorn to be able to keep his free might for the inevitable strike, just to give him that little edge as he is the leader. If he dies, he's starting to hemorrhage VPs there, and he is the big hitter for the list. So it just buys him some extra turns of might. Countering that, the Witch King is using his last point of might. So if he dies now, his unholy resurrection is a little bit more risky, although it is still a 1 or 2 will kill him. Not too bad, unless an Elven Blade gets in there and makes it a 1, 2 or 3. So, heroic move roll off, Aragorn or the Witch King. 8 goes, and by Aragorn we mean the King of the Dead. So the King roll off, it goes to the King of the Dead, and Good will move first. A fairly successful heroic move. The King of the Dead has gone in on Grinah, and then they've just managed to form a wall, Legolas pulling back slightly so he's not able to get trapped and overwhelmed. Just forming this wall with as many courage tests being required from evil as possible. Just trying to hold the horde back. Aragorn has gone into the Spider Queen. No one else is going to be able to get into that fight. He could well kill her. She's only got 2 wounds left. If he wins that fight, the inevitable strike off. If he can win and kill her, then that is one big threat gone from evil. And then Good can start mopping up this flank and unraveling evil. This guy failed a courage test to charge the Witch King for the 2nd turn in a row, this time on double 1s. So a spear support was forced to come away from the main line to tie up the Witch King. That's all of Good's move. This guy is yet to move, but it's evil priority, so we'll come back afterwards. In Good's movement, these two ignored this chap who has no control zone and just ran round. So the next turn, if the Spider Queen survives, they can try and help out. And then 3 passed courage tests into this guy. Rolling 9s, 10s, 11s. These guys are brave. Not quite as brave up here. Fair few failed courage tests, mainly from Hunter Orcs, although this guy, oh, where's he gone? Someone somewhere passed a courage test to get in on a spearman and just generally trying to get some kills. Oh, in fact, it was this guy here charged in on the King of the Dead. Most others failed courage tests. Here, we went for 1 with a chittering horde against Legolas rather than putting in a Hunter Orc. Same number of attacks, they'll wound on the same amount, but Legolas can only kill 1 of them, and it's better to be one of those goblins than a valuable Hunter Orc. The rest have just kind of shimmied round and spear supported where possible. So that is how we're looking. There's no heroics to be called from Grinah in the shoot phase, as he's already fighting his juicy target there of the Mightless King. So we're going to go into the combat phase, and we'll have a think about heroics and then come back in. In the combat phase, Aragorn and the Spider Queen both call heroic strikes. Then Grinah also cause a strike. He thought about saving his might. He's only got one left. This is his last one. Thought about saving it to keep his fate from failing, draining all his wounds, but he might as well just go for it. He's already taken a wound anyway. He's going to strike, try and beat the king. They're unlikely to kill him, but it's their best chance of survival. The king up here, still with 3 might, is just saving onto it. He can't really go anywhere, so he is not going to bother. We'll do the... in fact, we'll just do the plebs first, and then we'll come back to the big fights. So we'll start off here. 2 Hunter Orcs and their lowly friend against a shielding Army of the Dead. So Army of the Dead first on a 5 high against 5 attacks from Evil, who get the 6. So Aragorn's reroll. No, he has lost, and this is now a lot of attacks against him. So the double strikes now from them. We'll roll this twice. They're looking for a single 6. No, he's prone. So again, yes, they have absolutely butchered that guy, and in the process have broken the forces of good, which is crazy. That was not what I thought was going to happen in this game. So 3 rather on a shielding Army of the Dead. He wins it on the 6 there, pushing these guys back, just buying time for the heroes to do their work. Aragorn doing a little dance there. We then have 4 on 1. Again, he is going to shield. He loses. He can Aragorn banner. Still to a 5, so he's lost. We didn't say piercing strike though. So 6s by 4s. And it doesn't matter anyway, because they have failed to do anything about it. So he just backs away. We then have Grinah, who strikes. What does he strike to? Oh, he has struck high enough. He is fight 8. So, yes, 8. So he's not going to bother fainting or doing anything like that. He's just going to fight against the King of the Dead, who's going to set the bar at a 4. That is not good for the King of the Dead. So we have 2 attacks from Grinah, 2 attacks from the Hunter Orc, and then 1 from a pleb who is only fight 3. We'll do Grinah and the Hunter Orc together because they've got the same amount of might, which is 0. So Evil have won. There is still the banner reroll from Aragorn to a 5, but he's spent his might, so he loses that fight. And then not trapped, so he just backs away, but he does take strikes. It's straight 6s to wound on the red dice, and then the also red but slightly mottled is 6s by 4s. 1 wound. So the King of the Dead takes a wound. He has 2 wounds and something crazy like 3 fate, so he's just going to cop that wound. He's not the leader, and he'll save his fate for later. We then have a 2 on the Warrior of the Dead, who's going to fight it. He's going to fight it. He's going to be brave. They need to get some kills. It's currently a draw. There is the banner reroll for Evil. Still to a draw. So 1, 2 or 3 it's Evil. 4, 5, 6 it's good. It goes to good. Wounding on courage 3. He is strength 3 against courage 1 with the negative. He kills the Hunter Orc. That gamble paid off. We then have Legolas. Legolas against a Hunter Orc and 2. So Legolas 2 attacks against the 4. The forces of Evil. Ooh, Legolas loses. He doesn't have the banner from Aragorn because he's not a spirit, so he has lost that. He just backs away, and he is now going to be taking 4 strikes, needing 5s to wound. 1 wound on Legolas. He's just going to cop that as well and save his fate for later. We've then got this 2 on 1. And he's going to go brave, the Army of the Dead. The Warrior of the Dead. He has 1 on a 2. Banner reroll for Evil to a 6. So Aragorn banner, if it's in range, no. So taking strikes. Oh, it's a 6. They didn't piercing strike. 6s by 4. No. Could either of them piercing strike? I think actually both of them could. That's very, very sad that we keep forgetting. But treating this as tournament prep, not everyone will allow you to do a blanket call. So 3 attacks from the king against that Warrior of the Dead. Warrior of the Dead is going to shield. Let's see if he can survive. He's lost it on fight. If Aragorn's in range, it wouldn't make a difference because of the fight value of the king. And then the king is going to smush him up on a 4. He has killed him. Whether he's going burly or rending, that 4 is enough. Should have declared that. That is seriously nasty there. Still falling fairly fast, the forces of good, but can it swing here? We have the strike off. Let's see what the queen goes to. The queen is fight 10. No pressure, Aragorn. Oh, and Aragorn is fight 7. So he has lost that fight. Aragorn against the Spider Queen. The Spider Queen's only 2 attacks because she didn't charge. Aragorn's going to faint. He's just going to go nuts here. He needs to win. He needs to kill. Oh, and it's a 5 high. The queen can spend 2 points of might. She can't do it. She has lost. The stabbing, in fact, not even fainting. The stabbing Aragorn has won. 4s because of Anduril. Re-rolling 1s. Oh, and Aragorn has bottled it. She backs away, taking no wounds. He could spend a point of might to do a wound, but not kill her outright. It's not worth it. She lives to fight another day. That is so unlucky there from Aragorn. 4s re-rolling 1s, not a single wound. That is the end of the turn. We'll roll for priority. It goes once again to good. Just before we get into those moves, though, there is this one last combat that we forgot. Shielding chap against the Witch King. The Witch King wins, but the shielder can re-roll for the banner. 2 or 3, still a draw. He's lost. 6 is to kill. No chance on double 1s. The Witch King just pushes him back. And then we'll go into Good's move. There's going to be no heroics from Evil, as there's just no point, really. They're better off allowing at least some of their guys into combat, because Good will end up charging, and then seeing what they can do after that. So after Good's move, they have in fact decided to just pull back. They have passed their courage test nice and easily. They've got Aragorn and Legolas both passing their courage tests, and the King of the Dead. Everything else has stuck with them. Tied down the Goblin King up here. Remember to call him the Goblin King rather than just the King, as does the Witch King, the Goblin King, the King of the Dead, and then Aragorn's a king in his own right as well. But he's tied up the Goblin King up there. Legolas into the Witch King, and then just forming a thin, ghostly line to try and hold back Evil. Trying to fight in a ring. It's a bit more difficult than a straight line when you've not got many guys, so they're pulling back. Aragorn charging the Spider Queen. No one can get through that gap. Evil now going to have to waste time either trying to go round or, again, just charging here. Good. Just trying to pull back and keep slowly grinding their way through. Trying to take out big threats down here. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for Good to win this, but they still have the terror and some tactical flexibility with being able to run and duck and dive. So we'll go into Evil's move and see how they can respond. Evil, in their move, sent a couple of guys round just to try and take the back and make sure that Evil can't be kited too far with Good running away. And then here, these two, well, this guy passed a courage test to go in with a Chittering Horde spear support. Basically, everything else failed. Nowhere at all did anybody pass. These couple decided not to bother after everything had failed and just ran forward, just so that Good can't run too easily back. Although now that they're in formation, they could step back quite far, but they'll have to keep pace with Aragorn. So they've just tried to make sure they're not getting left behind. but absolutely abysmal. That's more like the evil courage that we would have expected. They've been very, very lucky with courage so far. So it was bound to all come crashing down at some point. So that retreat has definitely been a good call from evil. From good, rather. Dear me. They're ghosts. They should be evil. So we go into the shoot phase. There's no shooting. So we'll go into combat phase. In the combat phase, the Queen is spending her second point of might on a heroic strike. And Aragorn is countering with his 3 point of might. Then, up here, the King of the Goblins is going to call a heroic combat. It's his first point of might. He might as well. He's going to have to pass courage tests, but we'll see what happens. So we'll start off up there. Have to do heroic combats first. It's the King and 2 friends. So we'll do friends first against the Shielding Warrior of the Dead. They don't win. Can the King of the Dead win it? No, that is abysmal. Banner reroll for the King of the Dead, for the Goblin King. So he has lost. We'll do the Aragorn banner if it's in range. The King, oh, does he bother wasting might? Oh, no, because his plan was for this Goblin to pass a courage test, which is a long shot into him, so that the King could then go into Legolas. It's just not going to happen. It's not worth 2 points of might. So they are pushed back. That has wasted a point of the King's might. But at least he's not taking any wounds or anything like that. So not the end of the world. We then skip all of this because there's no fights. Except for Legolas and the Witch King, actually. We'll do them lest we forget. So it's 2 attacks on 2 attacks. Legolas wins. The banner is out of range. We'll check that, actually. It could well be. Although eyeballing it, I doubt it. Is he in range? No, not by a couple of mil, but he's not in. So Legolas wounding on 5s, because it's only defense 6, this Witch King, and he does a wound. So he has killed the Wraith, and it will now be a 1, 2, or 3 that he doesn't come back, rather than the usual just 1 or 2, because of the Elven Blade that Legolas wields. So then down here we have a 2 on 1, and that warrior is going to fight it. He's got the banner, he's got the fight value. He has lost, so he's bannering. To the 6, he wins it. And he kills. Starting to kill a couple of goblins now. A 3 because of the Hunter Orcs 2 attacks on 1. And again, that guy's going to fight it. And win. This is more like it, Army of the Dead. He's going after the Hunter Orc. And Courage 1. Because of the negative from the King of the Dead, he has killed him. He doesn't want to die, but he is gone. Not a bad turn there for the forces of good. They've killed 2, lost none. It's all going to come down to this big fight. Let's do the strike off simultaneously. And again, the Spider Queen has the fight value. Aragorn. Aragorn's going to set the bar on a 2 high. What an absolute potato. The Queen gets a 1 and 1 off the table. Suspense. It's a 1. Oh, Spider Queen. Oh, dearie me. The Spider Queen is going to spend a point of might to win that fight on a draw, which means Aragorn will have to use his last point of might from his store to win on a 3 high. Heartbreaking. That's the Spider Queen's roll that went on the floor. She would have won. That is pathetic there from the Spider Queen and from Aragorn. She's now out of might. Aragorn's out of might, but he does get his 3 per turn. Now he really needs to kill her. He is wounding on 4s, and he only does 1 wound. She backs away. She's still alive. Aragorn and the Queen, both as useless as each other. That is unbelievable. Wow. Right, let's roll for next turn priority. It goes to good yet again. We'll come back after any heroics. Oh, in fact, no. We'll roll to see if the Witch King comes back. 4+. It's a 1. The Witch King is killed by Legolas. Amazing. or useless. Oh, this could be the swing here. Evil have kind of lost momentum now, and good, if they can hold on, could well win this game. That would be really snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Let's crack on with movement. End of Good's move, and Aragorn is in on the Queen again. The line has come back. They couldn't quite keep Aragorn from getting overwhelmed, so it is a little bit more high risk now. But they've formed the wall again. Legolas has had to charge into 2 to make it happen. They're losing too many guys to hold this wall forever, but a couple more turns, especially if Aragorn can kill the Queen, and they can keep going. So that's how Good are looking. We'll come back after Evil have failed 1,000 courage tests. End of the move phase, and a lot of failed courage tests. These two failed to charge this chap, so this guy, who otherwise could have Chittering Horde supported, had to take the test. He did pass, so Aragorn doesn't have his spear support, and is in fact trapped, which was an oversight, although if they do this fight first, it's fine, and it is good priority. The King of the Dead managed to hold off quite a few being scary, but finally he was charged, allowing 2 and a Hunter Orc to go in on Aragorn, trying to overwhelm him with numbers. We then have a lot of failed tests here. A Hunter Orc here ran back, which allowed a couple of guys to take tests through the gap, one of whom did pass just into this guy, not into both, but he was unable to get any friends to join him. We then have here, nothing really changed. No one could really get through this gap. Infinitesimal, but not quite big enough to get a model through. So no one was able to get round and trap Legolas. So just keeping their spear supports, and nothing much has really changed there. So there's no real shooting. Evil do have a couple of bows, but they're not going to bother shooting into combat. There is this guy, but this one charged him instead, and he's not going to risk shooting into combat. So no shots. Will go into the combat phase, where we'll have to have a ponder and come back. In the combat phase, Aragorn, who is even fight value with the Spider Queen, is not going to strike. He's out of might. He's only got his 3. So he's going to call a heroic defense because he just can't risk it. There's too many attacks against him. Heroic defense is probably his best option for survival. If he wins the fight, he's likely to kill everything, although he's been very good at not doing that so far. But he just can't risk it. So he's not going to strike. He's going to defense. Then up here, the King and friends, they are going to be heroic combating. Because the King, there's no control zones to try and negate anymore. He can get into Legolas. So we'll start up there. We'll let Good set the bar again. He held off the heroic combat last time. Can he do the same? It's a 4 high. The King's friends first. What can they get? A 5. So Aragorn's reroll, if it's in range, on the draw, the King would win. So the King is going to strength 5 on defense, 8 is 5s down to 4s. If he rends, it's about the same. So he's going to rend. Ooh, and kills him. I thought that was going to be a bunch of 1s there. He has killed him. It's been pre-measured. He can run around and slam into Legolas. Then this chap here is going to take a courage test to go in there. And pass. He loves it. The spear supporter can't move as part of the heroic, but that guy can. So he's in. And that is quite a successful heroic move there from the King. So we'll stay around here. We'll do this 3-on-1. And the Army of the Dead, the Warrior of the Dead, he's going to shield, I think, this one. There's a banner as well. Oh, he wins. He wins shielding. So he's pushed those guys back. Not quite a full inch. So they are pushed back. We'll come back to Legolas. We'll do this Hunter Orc against 1. The 1 is going to fight it. need to get some kills now. Need to kill the horde of evil before they break. So he's looking for it. Oh, yes. He's won. Can he kill? Yes. These one-on-ones, they are doing some work, these Warriors of the Dead. If they've not lost so many from being knocked prone in that initial set of combats, then they'd be a lot more effective. We then have the King on 2. So 2 attacks on 2 attacks. The King wins it on fight value. And then he's looking for something really low to wound. That 3 is actually enough. Strength 4 on Courage 1. So he's killed him. We'll then do good priority. So they're not going to want Aragorn to be trapped. We'll do this 1-on-1 here. And that guy will piercing strike against the Army of the Dead. He's lost it though. Wounding on Courage, so it's irrelevant for the strike. And neg 1 from his terror buff has got him killed. So, final 1-on-1 before Aragorn. Again, piercing strike, because that's some form of weird spiky thing. And it goes to good again. Wounding on 3s. That 6 is definitely enough. The forces of evil now are getting close to break. They've suffered heavy losses in these last couple of turns. But then we have Aragorn. And in fact, we also have Legolas. We'll do Legolas first, I think. So they are even fight value. Legolas does have elven weapons. And he's got a 6. He is loving it. So the Horde. We've got 4 guys. They also get 6s. The King doesn't need to roll. He's very large. He only really does what he needs to do. No extra. So on just a 1 or 2, it goes to evil. Because of Elven Blades, it's a 3+. 2 good. And it goes to good. So Legolas could try and take out the King. Blubbery Mass doesn't work against Elven made weapons. Or does he want to try and break the forces of evil? Whoa. We're going to have a quick count up of how many evil models are left, see how far off break they are, and then we'll decide. So evil are still quite far off breaking. They've got 27 left and 19 dead, so I'll let you do the maths. There's 3 or 4 in it. Legolas, does he just go for plebs? Again, comment below, what do you think he should do? But what he is going to do is he's going for the King. Guaranteed VPs if he can put a wound on the King. So, going for him. He's done 2 wounds to the King. You can't blubbery mass it. He only has 1 fate. So he's going to take both of those wounds, leaving him with 1 wound and no fate. That is a big result there for Legolas. Can Aragorn do something similar? We have Aragorn with his heroic defense fighting against the Spider Queen. Will Aragorn set the bar on the 6? So he's got the 6. He's also got an elven made weapon. So he's hoping to win this even if it's a draw. And he is fighting against 2. And then a 2 attacks is 4 and her attacks is 6. So 6 dice. Evil need a 6 to at least get the draw. And they don't do it. So Aragorn wins. And Aragorn is needing 4s to wound on everything. So he's just going to go for... he's going to put the first one on the spider. No. Again, yes. She is dead. And then the Hunter Orc, dead as well. That is a very good result there for the forces of good. They back away and they are dead. That is very, very nasty there. The forces of evil are getting close to break. Wounds on the evil leader. Good are still clinging on in this game. They are 2 models away from being quartered. 3, in fact, from being quartered. So they just have to survive. Let's roll for next turn priority. It's a draw. So this time it goes to evil. Evil priority. And Legolas has 1 might. Aragorn has his 3. They're not going to call a heroic move. They would be giving up the chance for a lot of failed terror checks. But also,
they can't really do anything useful with it. If Legolas calls it, he can't kind of get behind to safety. There's nothing really they can do. The best off saving that might to try and strike and win fights and whatever else they need to do. Hopefully that's not a mistake. So we'll come back after Evil's move. After Evil's move, they were able to overwhelm Aragorn, but failed a lot of courage tests here. Unable to tie down these guys. They've surrounded Legolas and got the king and one with a spear support into this chap. Not the worst it could have been, but quite a lot of failed courage tests. It has as well meant that Good are able to save Aragorn. So he'll as well be able to use that 3 point of might for a combat. This guy is going to stay where he is in case they lose priority next time, just holding that line. And that is the end of the movement phase. Once again, there's no shooting, so we go into the combat phase, where Aragorn is using his 3 point of might for a heroic combat. He's now only fighting against one, so he is hoping to win that. The king of the goblins, the Goblin King, did think about a heroic combat, but it's his last point of might, and he had to spend a will to get into combat as well, so probably best to save that in case he has to start doing standfasts, which could happen soon. As well, a heroic combat would bring him scarily close to Aragorn, and he only has one wound left. So Aragorn's heroic, it's a draw, but he does win on fight value. So he then wounds on 4s and just kills him on a 1, a 3 and a 4. So he brings that goblin down, and then he's just going to charge into this chap here. He's getting the trap on that guy there. It's evil priority, however, so we're going to do this one first. It's a 2 on 1 because the warrior is going to fight it. And he's not going to ban a reroll. He's going to just take the draw. So 1, 2 or 3, it's evil. And it's evil. So either way, he'd have lost that, but he had better odds if he took it as a evil or good roll-off. So he loses. It's 6s to kill. He just backs away. We then have this fight here. We'll let evil set the bar on a 5. So Aragorn also gets a 5, wins it on fight, and guts that guy. So he's now killed 2. He's fallen over in the process. Killed those 2, so that's not bad there on that flank. Getting ever closer to break for evil now. We then have a 2 on 2. The King of the Dead. Cocked. Ooh, loses. Banner reroll for Aragorn. Wins on the draw. Looking for something low to kill, and that 5 is more than enough. So he has killed him. We then got this 2 on 1. The warrior's going to fight it. He loses, but he's got the banner. Oh, that was nearly a 6. Loses there. And it's still 6s to kill him. So he's absolutely fine. He backs away, trying to keep that wall together. We then have, quite a lot. We have 6 on Legolas there. So 6 dice on Legolas's 2. We'll roll them all together. Can Legolas do it? Oh, no, he can't. He does have a point of might, so he can actually win that fight, but there is the banner first. No, so Legolas is going to spend his last point of might to win that fight. He needs to do that or he's dead. And then he's wounding on 4s. He has killed. He's going for the Hunter Orc and the guy just there. So that's well worth a point of might. Not only is he still alive, which is quite important, he's also killed 2 more guys. So evil may well be broken now. We then have this chap here who will shield on a whole 3 against the king, who gets a 4. Will banner re-roll him? No. So the king is then going to barge into Legolas and die. No, that'd be daft. He's going to rend and eats him on a 6. Another brutal turn. Good are getting closer and closer to being quartered, but they are taking an awful lot of evil with them. Definitely a big swing now This is truly anyone's game. Let's roll for next turn priority, and then we'll count up how far off break good are. Evil, rather. Evil of 1 priority. So we'll see if they're broken, and then we'll think about some heroics. After a truly savage couple of turns, evil are now broken. Good still clinging on, and they are carving through. So Aragorn is going to call a heroic heroic move rather, because if he can take out the King's automatic standfast, because he's a legend, so he'll auto pass his first one, and get into Grinah, then most of evil will run and good will win. So this is going to be a very, very important roll-off. Oh, it goes to evil. Still not a done deal, but that is what evil needed. So evil win the heroic move roll-off. The king and the guys around him will move first, but importantly, his standfast will go off. After that heroic, Legolas is taking on the full might of Goblin Town, with the king and fair few there getting into combat. No one was brave enough to charge this guy, so he has not been tagged, but the king and friend have. Grinah sadly failed his courage test and is gone. So that was a bit of a blow there to the forces of evil, but the standfast has caught everyone. There's only this chap who's not in the heroic move, but now it is time for Good's heroic move. So Aragorn and friends are going to move. Very brief move from Good. This guy has just been surrounded by Aragorn and friends. His control zone meant Aragorn couldn't really go anywhere, so they've just gone for overwhelming numbers just to make sure Aragorn doesn't get accidentally wounded. This guy couldn't spear support him because of their control zones. Couldn't spear support Legolas, that is, so he's just charged him to try and help out. That's all the moves. There's no shooting. We'll go into the combat phase. And we'll just start off with the scrub fights. So we'll do this one-on-one here. Piercing striking if possible. He has one Aragorn banner, so that 3 is high enough. And it is a wound, so this guy is killed. The -1 from Harbinger on the King of the Dead is absolutely horrible to play against. It is getting a lot of kills. So next up then, we'll do this one here, where we have a 2-on-1, and evil, again, they're going to fight it. They're doing some serious work by fighting it. Oh dear, that could have been a bridge too far, but re-roll, no. So has lost, although would have lost anyway. So needing, can any of those piercing strike? The back one can, so this will be 6s. No, and then 6s by 4s. No. So doesn't really matter when they lose fights because they are quite indestructible on these. Just sort of a couple of guys against them, although their huge losses do question that. So another 2 on the king this time. Piercing striking where able from evil. That 6 is cocked. Oh, not good. Too high. Banner reroll for being near Aragorn. Not high enough. So have any of them got something they can pierce with? No, they're just swords. So 6s by 4s. Nothing. And the king backs away. We'll do this one next. It's Aragorn and a million friends. Hunter Orc sets 5 as the bar. Aragorn gets the 6. Double strikes, needing 4s. It doesn't do it on the first lot. Triple 2s, and he does on the second. So that hunter is dead. Evil getting close to quarter now. Final combat is Legolas. Legolas will let him set the bar at a 5, respectable. We then have 2 and the king. The king is out of might, so they need the 6 here. So 2, yeah, can't even do the maths. So needing the 5, the 6 rather. They've got it. Legolas out of might, and he can't benefit from the Aragorn banner because he is not a spirit. So he has lost. So the 2 plebs needing 5s do nothing. And then the king. He is going to rend. He'll be needing 3s. Hang on, we'll just have a think about what he's going to do. So he's strength 5, burly, and that will be down to 4s. So it's 4s either way, so he's just going to go for him. And he only does 1 wound. So that's fairly pants. Oh, in fact, no, because he's burly, it's 5s down to 3. So he's done 2 wounds. Okay, so not too bad. 2 fate from Legolas. He passes 1, fails that one, but passes the next. So he is down to 1 wound, no fate, and backs away. That was fairly close there, but he is still alive. So that is the end of the turn. Anyone's game now. Just 1 or 2 more to be killed from either side will end this and be victory for the other teams. So priority swings now to good. This could be disaster for the forces of evil. There's going to be a lot of failed courage tests here. Let's see what good can do. So good, in true Army of the Dead fashion, have retreated. They've pulled back so that everything is going to have to take courage tests. The only model that's been charged is the king. The hurl line is not going to get anyone, so worst case, Legolas gets abused, but a lot of courage tests now for evil. Let's get stuck into those and we'll come back afterwards. So courage happened and everything ran. 11 models ran, so evil are definitely quartered now. The banner did manage to stay, which is 2 VPs, which is nice. The banner failed and had to be passed across, so then this guy, who was one of many failed, but he passed and moved, touching the banner just in case it failed, although it then passed anyway. Which is why there's those 2 just randomly stood like morons. Most things failed. This guy passed and passed again to then be able to charge the Warrior of the Dead there, but no one else passed and was able to charge Legolas. He passed very early on, but he was trying to charge that guy and failed. This guy then passed, and Spear Supports, we've just noticed actually, he's in his control zone, but he doesn't have to be because there's no one around. So the combat phase, it is possible here for evil to quarter good. If they win and kill in both these fights, they can do it. So let's do King of the Dead. In fact, no, we'll do this 2-on-1 here. And the Warrior of the Dead, oh, does he shield or does he go for it? No, he's going to shield because he does not want to die. He's won the fight, and that is evil's hopes of a win gone. They can still draw though because they've got the banner. We then have Legolas against the king. So the king, 3 dice, wins the fight, and actually he's going to barge because he could get in on those 2. If he does by some miracle kill them both, he'll win. So yeah, barge. How far does he go? 3 inches. So we will we'll do the moves off camera because there's going to be some serious measuring going on here. Okay, so Legolas couldn't get out this gap in a straight line, so he's had to move back here, and now he's prone because he couldn't go the full 3. So now the king is going to courage test, charge this chap and into Legolas. He's passed his courage test and he's in. If he can kill both of them, he will win the game for evil. This is a big final go. He's going to piercing strike, and he's obviously 2-handing because he's burly. Oh, we'll let him set the bar on a 3. That is not good. Legolas gets a 4 and friend gets a 2. Friend can banner to a still a 4. The king can also banner for the game. It's a 4. Oh, so it's a draw. 1 or 2 it goes to evil. no, it goes to Legolas and friend. The king backs away, tears in his eyes. He then takes a strength 3 against his courage of 3 down to 2, so 4s. He even takes a wound, so he is going to blubbery mass it on a 3+ and save that final wound. That was it was a Hail Mary at the end, but he didn't quite pay off for evil. Good have won that by running away and letting courage do their work for them. That was a lot closer than I was thinking it was going to be, testing out this evil army, but terror was their undoing. So the final scores are in. Both forces are definitely broken for 3 each, but with the king of the Goblins not quite being able to do it at the end, the only force that's quartered are evil, which gives another 2 victory points to good. However, the Gundabad banner still flies, which is 2 victory points for 5 apiece. But then we have the king, wounded by Legolas, who chose very wisely to wound the king instead of breaking the goblins earlier. And that decision has won the game for good. 1 solitary victory point for the wound on the Goblin King, with Aragorn unharmed, is 6-5 to good. So Legolas, who's been kicked about, abused, failed to shoot anything, has won the game for the forces of good. I hope that you enjoyed this game. It was a real nail-biter. It's it's heartbreaking, having been rooting for evil, which is my tournament list, all the way through. They threw it all away because they just could not quite bring it home in those last few turns. Again, I hope you enjoyed this game. It's been great fun to play. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Before we get started, let's talk Legolas. He is Mr. Game Winner. He can spend all game rolling 1s, or he can do some amazing things.